their countries. People just all over the world fleeing their countries. It's the people that take care of these people, these nations, that will take American refugees in and take care of them. Because Americans, for example, most definitely the Lord's people, a lot of them, the Lord's people, real people. If you look at a lot of the nations today, it's just a huge mixture of goat nations. You have India, all the Muslim nations are goat nations. And there's going to be a literal war, Islam against Christianity, against the Lord's people. And so these nations who are going to protect Christian people are the ones that the Lord will honor at the beginning of the 1,000-year period, in the judgment of the sheep and goats. And so these nations will be allowed to enter into the millennial reign of Christ, 1,000 years. Now, nowhere does it say that any of these nations are Christian nations, are believers of the Most High. They were simply people that gave the Lord's people mercy. Fed them, gave them food, gave them a place to stay, treated them with dignity. And so you can see what kind of times are ahead of us. When you've got the Lord's people literally on the run, being as refugees in other nations of the world, and the nations of the world who are taking care of them are the ones the Lord is going to take care of at the sheep and goat judgment. And so you enter into this millennial reign, and there's no death during the 1,000 years the Lord reigns on earth. There's no death. And so during this time, a lot of these nations that were allowed to enter into the millennial reign are going to have children, and those children are going to have children, and those children are going to have children. We're going to see a population on this world like probably umpteen time, 100 times what we have now, because in 1,000 years, no one dies. No one dies during the 1,000-year millennial reign. I've heard some people describe that it'll get so populated here on Earth that at that time, with the technology and the population, we'll be able to populate other planets by the time the 1,000 years is up. And so I haven't really gone into that. But that's what it's going to be like. And so there's going to be a lot of people born throughout this time who won't love the Lord, who won't be loyal to Him like perhaps their grandparents were, or their parents were. And these are the ones referred to when the Lord says that He will rule by an iron fist. If any kind of sin pops up, it won't be tolerated. It'll be dealt with immediately. During this time, the nation, all nations will be required to honor the Passover. The kings will be required to visit Jerusalem once a year. I think the people are too at this point. Which begs another question. If we're still following the feasts of the Lord during the millennial reign when He's on earth, what gives them the right to say those feasts are dead and we're not supposed to be celebrating them now? The Lord didn't stop His plan. He established 7 feasts in the Old Testament, and in the New Testament, the apostles and the Lord Himself were still honoring them. And then you enter the church age, and all of a sudden we have a bunch of apostate preachers saying, oh, that's no longer necessary. And they replace the feast dates with Easter bunnies and candy and Christmas trees. And they don't even honor the Lord's feast dates. But then you see, when the Lord Himself is reigning on earth, what are we doing? Are we celebrating Easter and Christmas and Halloween? No. We're back to celebrating His feast dates, the ones we were commanded to celebrate from the beginning. And so where is their authority over the past 2,000 years in this church age to have stopped the churches from celebrating the feasts? Why aren't pastors going back and digging and doing some research and a little bit of reading? It only takes about 5 minutes of reading to realize how apostate the churches are today. It's bad enough when you try to tell them the 7th day is Saturday and we're supposed to honor Sabbath on the 7th day of the week. Even Rome, even the Vatican states that Sabbath should be honored on Saturday, the 7th day, that they never changed it. The churches did. American Protestant churches changed the Sabbath to Sunday. And they don't. And even Rome says, where was their authority to do so? We didn't give it to them. Nobody gave it to them. They took it upon themselves to do it. And so that's how far left. I've always said, if you wanted to know what true worship was, what the apostles worshipped, what the Lord taught, to go back and study the error from 100 AD under. Because after the last apostle died, I think that was 75 AD, I think John was the last apostle to die. That's when you start seeing a rift in the church. That's when the persecutions came about. That's when they got rid of all of the apostles' real teachings and started throwing Pauls at the churches. And that's where you see the apostate Christianity come into play. As soon as they were able to put their man Paul as a dominant teacher of the Protestant religion, then you start seeing the apostasy come out. So anyway, what I wanted to do was just answer that about where these wicked people come during the millennium, and apparently, obviously, it's from these nations that are allowed in, the nations that survive the tribulation period. We know that about a third of the population on earth left is alive when the Lord returns. The nations who took in the Lord's people and helped them, let them come in as refugees, took care of them, will be the ones allowed in during the 1,000-year millennial reign with Christ. The nations who didn't will be destroyed. It talks about how they'll be sent away into everlasting punishment. And so, during that time, all of these people born, millions and millions, probably billions at this time by the end of 1,000 years. We'll have billions of people here on earth. And it's from these people that don't have a real genuine love for the Lord that Satan will be able to gather an army for his last attempt to come up against the Lord and overtake his and usurp his authority on earth and in heaven. I mean, Satan's always trying. We've already talked about his first rebellion attempt and how he lost that one. We've already been talking about how he's attempting his second one through this New World Order, and he's going to lose this one. And when he's cast into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years during the Lord's millennial reign, he will be let go and allowed once again to have one third and final attempt. And the Lord allows this because he uses Satan to test his people. He wants his people to love and serve him because they want to. And so Satan's always been used to test the Lord's people. And that's how you pretty much can find out the real believers of the Most High from those who are just talkers and not doers. But eventually you can read in Revelation 20 and 21 how his third attempt is abolished as well. And then he's finally just cast into the lake of fire where the Antichrist and the false prophet are waiting for him forever and ever. And then you go on into eternity at that point. So I want to get into the second coming of Christ tonight and talk a little bit about it. The Lord is returning, and he's not returning to revamp a failing economic system. He's not coming to cleanse the earth. He's not coming to teach people how to ascend to a higher spirituality. He's not here coming to revamp our health care. He's not coming to save our dying ecosystems. He's not coming to distribute wealth among the poor or form coalitions or unite mankind. The Lord is coming to destroy the wicked off the face of the earth. It says, "For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, nor one of them left. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing of his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.